What up guys, ThatzNOTmetal here bringing you another CD review. Now I'm going to get straight on with the review, I'm not going to waste any of your time. So yeah, this is what I'm going to be reviewing for you today. This is the 2015 album from the band Trivium, entitled Silence in the Snow. This is released under Roadrunner Records. Now, everyone knows Trivium, or at least heard of them. They are one of the biggest metal bands going at the moment, and they've got quite a number of fans around the world. That's probably an understatement, but oh well, we're going on with it anyway. They have a total of 7 albums out in total. The first 2 albums were more along the lines of a melodic thrash metal kind of vibe, the kind of vibes I get are kind of like Silosis and maybe a bit of Revocation sort of stuff. If you're a fan of any of those bands and you haven't checked out the older Trivium albums, then go ahead and check those out. But yeah, those 2 albums are fantastic. I absolutely love those 2. The Crusade I haven't had much exposure to, but the vibes I get is kind of like a old school thrash metal kind of vibe, but it's not really my sort of style. And then you get to the Shogun album, which is more, in my opinion, it's more of a melodic thrash metal meets groove metal kind of vibe. And me being a massive groove metal fan as I am, I absolutely love that album. In my opinion, I think that's the best Trivium album so far, and quite rightly so, it's phenomenal. And then you get to the previous 2 albums, In Waves and Vengeance Falls. And In Waves for me is probably my second favourite Trivium album. I think it's just got a lot of character to it. There's a lot of hooks and licks in there that I think some of the best Trivium licks of all times. And nearly all the songs stick in my head, and that's what I think a Trivium album's meant to do. So, moving on. And then Vengeance Falls, for me, is the most underrated album of Trivium. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and anyone who says it's a if I can get it right, anyone who says it's not a Trivium album and it's a Disturbed album, fuck you. It's nowhere near a Disturbed album. It's a fantastic album, and it's a great Trivium album if you ask me. And then we get to 2015 with the arrival of their 7th album, Silence in the Snow. Now, this is the band's first album with the new drummer, who, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, previously used to be the guitar tech for the band, but decided to hop on drums since the previous drummer left. And yeah, and then that leads us on to the new album. The album itself is a very epic approach to the Trivium sound. It's got a lot more atmosphere to it. It's got so much epicness to it. It's a lot more different vibed than previous Trivium albums. It's not as fanatic. It's not as crazy thrashy. It's more, in my opinion, it's more like a eased back Trivium, if you ask me, especially when it comes to the drums. I think the drums are pretty simplistic and pretty groovy, and playing it safe is the way I can describe the album. If you just give us a second, I'm just reaching from your cuppa. I think it's playing it a bit safe, but still it's tight, it's punchy, it's hard hitting. The drums really, you can feel every hit from every cymbal, every tom, every snare, every kick. Everything you can feel when you listen to this album. As for bass-wise, Pablo, in my opinion, and I've always said this, he's one of the most underrated bass players of all time. He is such a good bass player. He knows exactly what he's doing with his instrument. He knows every note he hits and how to play that note, whether to play it with aggression or sensitivity. He's just the kings of that. And in my opinion, I don't know if anyone thinks the same about this, but I think this is the best bass tone I have heard all year so far. Kind of reminds us a bit of Job for a Cowboy, Sun Eater. Both these albums are sticking out because of the bass tone, and quite rightly so. They're both Nick Strangelis and Pablo Both use Warwick basses, and they always deliver that clean, rough, raw bass tone that you can't find with any other instrument, if you ask me. I've heard a lot of bass tones like from Fenders, ESPs and all that, but no one has got the Warwick bass tone unless they use a proper Warwick. And I should know I play Warwicks myself, so moving on, but still an absolutely great bass tone, and some it really cuts well into the mix, and you can hear every note that he's playing under the guitar, and that's what a bass tone's meant to do, if you ask me. Guitar wise, the guitar work on this album, in my opinion, it's same as the drums. It's not really as fanatic or crazy as previous Trivium albums. It's more simplistic, melodic thrash groove metal. It's like Shogun kind of slowed down, but still there is some headbanger of riffs in there on all the pretty much all the tracks, especially Silence in the Snow, Dead and Gone, and what's the name of the track? Rise Above the Tides. All the tracks really really make you want a headbang, and there's quite a number of trivia tracks and albums that would make you do that. So it is still a good Trivium album, playability wise. The leads are a bit louder than the rhythm guitar, like kind of screaming at you, like lead, kind of tone. And Corey and Matt's lead works have always impressed me. The melody that they can make together is just phenomenal, especially when they do the kind of like harmonizing guitar solos. I've always admired that about Trivium. There's a lot of 7-string songs across this album. They pretty much add the beef to the tracks, especially the song, my favourite song on the album, Dead and Gone. So if you want a groove and heavy track to listen to from this album, definitely listen to Dead and Gone. But yeah, guitar tone could have been, the guitar volume could have been a little bit more punchier, if you ask me, and a little bit more grit to it. But it just makes you want to headbang, really. That's the best way I can describe it. As for vocally, the one thing I would say in advance, if you're going to check out this album, don't expect any screams, because there is none on this album at all. From what I read up, Matt blew his voice just before going into the studio to record vocals, and so there was no screams. Corey was going to do the screams, but they decided, I think, to do cleans on the album. And to me, it's what Trivium was going to do at some point, because a lot of bands that start off screaming and have singing in, they'll want to dwell towards more just singing over the years. But you know what I mean, loads of bands do it. But in my opinion, when it comes to Matt's voice on this is easily, without a shadow of doubt, his best vocal performance to date, especially when it comes to cleans. It seems like him, like, how could I describe it? It's like him damaging his voice when it comes to screams has kind of improved his cleans. I don't know if anyone else gets that same vibe. Because it's like a new Matt. It's scarily good how his range has really improved. His dynamics behind his voice, his control is unbelievable. I mean, he's done some vibrato over the years on his voice, but the vibrato on this album is just pristine. It's unbelievable. I think his cleans are the best they've ever been, and there's a variety of like sophomore cleans on this album, but then there's still the like kind of Shogun-y kind of Hetfield kind of style, like shouting kind of cleans, you know what I'm saying, the Hetfield style, as it's coming to be known. But I have to say, the lyrics are Definitely ones that stick in your head, they're easy to remember, and the way Matt pronounces them and does vocal work on this album, it makes it stick in your head, just like any other Trivium album, so that's all good there. Overall, I think it's a good stepping stone for Trivium. I don't think I think it could have been a lot better, but I do feel like it's a good stepping stone to whatever comes next. And I'm hoping that the next album is going to be better. And I would like to see some screams back there, especially if Matt says I'm never doing screams again on a Trivium album. I still want Corey to do the screams, because his scream tone, in my opinion, has always been better than Matt's, in my opinion anyway. But yeah, it's still a good album. If I was to recommend some tracks for you to check out, it would be Silence in the Snow, Blind Leading the Blind, Dead and Gone, Pull Me From the Void, Rise Above the Tides, that's probably a beast, well sorry, not probably, that is a beast of a song, Beneath the Sun, and definitely check out the bonus track, because I got the, as you can see there, deluxe edition. So it's got 2 bonus tracks, definitely check those out, especially the song Cease All Your Fire. Cease All Your Fire. Definitely check out this album, it's definitely a good album, definitely a good stepping stone for the next chapter in Trivium's book, should we just say. For an overall score on this album, I think I'm going to give it a solid 6.5 out of 10. It is a good album, and definitely something I'm going to listen to a bit more, but I still think it could have been better, if you ask me. But yeah, I'll hope you've enjoyed this review. It took us a while to do it. It took us about 4, maybe 5 takes over the past couple of weeks, so I'm finally glad I finally managed to get it down. And I might as well put a shout out to Michael Bowers. I'll link his channel down below. But yeah, cheers for helping us out, getting my words out, and composing myself, because I was stressy and stuff leading up to this video. So yeah, so cheers for that, mate. I'll leave a link for your channel down below, and I'll see you until the next video. I'm going to be doing a couple more reviews soon, so I'll see you then, and remember, stay metal, take care.